Am I the asshole for not forgiving my Mill? 2 years ago, my wife and I went through a brief separation in which I left. I was packing up my car while my wife was at work, and my Mill drove up, blocked my car with hers so I couldn't leave, and proceeded to call me a psycho among other names, and even tried to get my cell phone from me so, I assume, I wouldn't be able to reach anyone. In hindsight, I am not sure why I didn't call the police. The experience left me traumatized, and I vowed then and there that I wouldn't see her again, ever. My wife and I then got back together a few months later, and after explaining what happened, she told me that she understood why I felt the way I did. However, her tune has changed over time, and now we are getting into fights over Mill. My wife wants us all to get along for the sake of the family as a whole, especially since her mom is a part of holidays, family events, etc. I've changed my mind slightly and have agreed to be cordial for family's sake, but I refuse to be friendly. I also told my wife that if Mill gets too friendly with me, as my wife, she should shut it down. I've kept my foot down on this boundary, but my wife isn't too happy about it. She keeps telling me that we should all be a family, that Mill is a friendly person, that she won't do that again, and that I am an adult and should let it go. I told her that this is my boundary, and she should be by my side and respect my wishes in this matter. I also said that her loyalty should be to me first and foremost. She now is telling me that I am not respecting her wishes for me to just be nice, and I said back that Mill should be lucky that she even gets a hello from me. I hate that my wife and I are fighting about Mill because in the grand scheme of things, it's dumb. I just want my wife to respect my boundary. She wants bygones to be bygones. Am I the asshole for my stance in this? Edit. Some of you have been asking whether Mill has ever lashed out like this before, and I'd like to address it. Let me start from the beginning. Mill has a history of abusive and controlling behavior, specifically toward my wife. When we met, Mill had control over everything. My wife didn't have a bank account, didn't know how to get one, or apply for a credit card. She lived on her own, granted, but it was on family-owned property, and she worked with her mom. I am sure you can all guess where the paychecks went. My wife had no idea that this wasn't normal behavior for a family, and although this sounds self-grandizing, I basically had to tell her how to be an adult. She got a job away from Mill, got her own bank account, and went directly to her aunt, who owns the house, for bills instead of going through Mill like before. The lack of control seems to have made things worse for her and Mill. She would call at all hours, making my wife go out and do things for her, then would yell and scream at her. I was powerless to stop all this, as I can't tell my wife who to have in her life and who not to, but if it were up to me, we would be NC. The relationship between my wife and I broke apart at the time because my wife was abusing drugs. I didn't know how bad it was until I decided to leave. The problem had been going on for a long time, and I regret to say that I was an enabler even though I thought I was helping. The night I decided to leave, my wife asked Mill to drive by to see if I was packing up. Just drive by. This is not what happened, as the original post says. When I later told wife what happened, she was furious and became LC with Mill for about a year, with Mill being on best behavior. My wife has also gotten the help she needs and has been sober for over 2 years now, when we got back together. I too have gotten the counseling I need for this situation, but my relationship with Mill, I feel, has been damaged to the point of no return. I am not quite sure why my wife wants her mom in her life still, but again, I am not gonna tell her who she can and can't have in her life. I, however, can choose to have who I want in my life, and Mill is not really one of them. I want to support my wife by being cordial, but this is all. I think I have a damn good reason. I think this probably belongs in relationship advice. You're not the asshole for your feels and not forgetting what happened, but realistically, are you going to have a harmonious family relationship if you can't find a way to reasonably interact with your Mill? Info. Did Mill apologize for what she did when she blocked in your car? Your feelings and relationship with your Mill should not impact and control your wife's relationship with her own mother, nor should it disrupt family functions as a whole. It's also not your wife's job to play referee between you two and puts her in a difficult position as you are her husband whom she loves and that's her mother. Maybe have a conversation with Mill about what your boundaries are and what you expect. You can both be pleasant around each other without being close and it will keep the peace. So not the asshole, but kind of the asshole for execution. Not the asshole you set a boundary and your wife should respect that. Yes, she should put you first. Sounds like Mill is in her ear and stirring the pot. Have one of your friends come and yell at your wife and mother-in-law, Call them psychos. Block their exit and just generally be abusive. Then demand that they immediately forgive the friend on your terms and that this friend gets to accompany you to every event where you have to interact with Mill. See how they like that. Not the asshole. Not the asshole for not forgiving, but the experience left me traumatized, and I vowed then and there that I wouldn't see her again, ever. Then the next line. My wife and I then got back together a few months later, and after explaining what happened, she told me that she understood why I felt the way I did. Dude. People are stepping on your boundaries so much because you yourself don't seem to respect it and be wishy-washy. What did you expect would happen when you got back together? Toxic in-laws are in top 5 causes of divorce, especially if your significant other don't have your back. Not the asshole probably, but why did your Mill show up acting like that? What's the history there? Did she have a pattern of being abusive and resentful towards you, or was she reacting in the heat of the moment to a bunch of dramatic details from your wife? She called you psycho and was blocking you. That didn't likely just come out of thin air. Has she apologized? If not, she probably thinks she was justified. If she's not an asshole all the time, her daughter probably told her something that sent her on that tailspin. This needs a deeper dive. I mean, the way you are currently handling it is clearly doing more damage than good. I wouldn't call you an asshole. I think you're justified in being upset, but I think communicating with your Mill directly without getting defensive to try and resolve it would definitely not make you an asshole. So not an asshole, yet potentially. Am I the asshole for not wanting to go to most of his family events since I've been excluded in the past? My boyfriend, 27M, and I, 27F, have been talking lately about the holidays. We have been together for over 4 years now, since June 2017, and talking about marriage, kids, etc. We are on our second house together. Went from apartment, to a house, to a bigger house. So about a year and a half ago there was some drama in his family in regards to me. His cousin, at the time was 22 or 23M, and his fiancée, 23F, I believe, were getting married. They asked him to be a groomsman and then they sent an invite to our home. If it makes any difference, I was the one on the deed of our home. So my boyfriend texts his cousin the RSVP saying we will be there. His cousin texts and says sorry, but since he is a groomsman that he is not allowed to bring a +1, that there is no room for me at the wedding party's table. My boyfriend stated that was fine, that we could sit with his mom and her boyfriend, her +1, or sit with his grandparents. His cousin insists that my boyfriend needs to stay at the wedding party table and I won't be going with him. His cousin never gave us a reason as to why I could not be a +1. I had been in the family for years and go to all of the events with my boyfriend. I still to this day don't understand. So, longer story short, my boyfriend didn't go to his cousin's wedding at all. My boyfriend told his cousin, I'm sorry, but if you won't include my significant other as a part of the family, then I will have to pass on the invite. We both assumed I was invited because they sent it to our home, which I owned. We thought if I wasn't invited that it was odd for them to send it to a home in which I reside. Almost 2 years later and we both are singled out of their family events. His aunt and uncle asked us what we were doing for Thanksgiving last year 2020 and said it was at their house, so he took that as them inviting us. He went to their home and I didn't. When he got to Thanksgiving dinner, he walked in and his aunt stated, "Oh. We didn't know you were coming, we might not have enough food." When they made do with what they had and he left as soon as he could because they made him feel unwanted. This has really put me off of wanting to be involved in their holiday events since we have been practically excluded from his aunt, uncle, and 3 cousins part of the family. My boyfriend only has 11 family members total. We have even purchased Christmas gifts for everyone every Christmas they were there, or not there. My boyfriend thinks I should just put up with them since we only see his mom and grandparents once or twice a year. Their events last between 6–10 hours and leaves no room for my family events on Thanksgiving or Christmas Day. I don't want to exclude him from our events, so we always change our days, times so he can come with me. Am I the asshole for not wanting to participate in most of his family events? Edit. There was a +1 option on the wedding invite. Thanksgiving actually she did invite us. I went back to the messages and she said, I know y'all are probably working night but wanted to extend a Thanksgiving invite if you are free. So my boyfriend was actually invited. Here is the SS of the actual invite to TG. Not the asshole. You don't want to ever be somewhere and feel excluded. Also he needs to give up some of the holidays. You can't always be the one giving up Christmas, Thanksgiving, etc. to have on another day. One Christmas you go to your family, the next is his. It's give and take, not you give up all the time and he takes. You need to have conversation with him about giving up holidays, and also not feeling welcomed by his family. Not the asshole, they are treating you both unfairly, and it's reasonable to want to put your foot down. Going over there to be uncomfortable for hours, why exactly? You could decide to only stay for an hour or two and then go home. You could drop off presents and say happy holidays and then dip. You could see the people who like you on a different day than the ones who treat you like crap. He could grow a backbone and tell his family to stop being Oz to you and him. You could have a turn prioritizing your family's schedule and leave his to sort out this year. There are alternatives to you two feeling like you have to just grin and bear it when it should be a nice time. You're going about this the wrong way. You need clear communication with those 11 family members. Have a direct conversation with each. Ask them, do you want a family relationship with us or not? And go from there. Nah. They are free to exclude you from family events. And you and your boyfriend are free to move on and start a new family. Also, he should have never went to Thanksgiving. Or as soon as they said we weren't expecting you and might not have enough food, he should have walked out. If they don't reciprocate Christmas gifts, that's a big sign of not wanting to have contact. Not the asshole. They keep excluding you. Not the asshole. They have excluded you and by extension your BF. I'm so glad to hear he is sticking up for you and sticking by you and didn't go to the wedding. What does his mum say about this? Or his grandparents? It all seems very odd. I went to a wedding with my fiancé just before COVID happened. I didn't get to sit with her as she was Mo and was at the head table. I sat with the other bridesmaid's boyfriend. It was a bit awkward, but we made do. Not having space at the head table doesn't mean you can't be invited. There are ways around these things. Instead, they chose to not have you there. This is very ignorant and short-sighted. I'm sorry you are going through this with his family and I wish you all the best. Might be time to think ahead about your wedding and if you would be inviting them. Not the asshole op. No one should be forced to go where they aren't wanted. Soft, you are the asshole. This sounds like a specific problem with specific people and it feels petty to skip out on events with his grandparents, mom, who have been welcoming to you just because one branch of his family have this grudge. Though certainly lowering time spent and modifying your expectations, gifting is fine. I don't assume that anything my boyfriend receives in the mail is mine just because I live here. My boyfriend doesn't open my packages just because he lives here too. That's a silly reason to assume that you're auto-invited. But I still say not the asshole. Am I the asshole for wanting rent from my partner to live with me in a house I was gifted? So I've been disabled since my mid-teens. The nature of my condition means that I have good spells and bad spells. When I'm well I work, when I'm bad I can't, and I have no income apart from disability benefits. This isn't a lot of money in the UK, and since I struggled to maintain several years of paid employment at a time, I'm stuck in lowish paying work. Knowing that my situation isn't going to get better, my lovely parents decided to buy me a small, manageable house with 3 bedrooms. The idea was that I could rent out the spare rooms, and would have a steady source of income, no matter how long I was between jobs, or how difficult the government made it to claim benefits. It's worked well, and has allowed me to actually start putting money away for my retirement. My parents aren't worried about me falling through the cracks when they're gone, and can relax about my future. I met my partner 10 months ago. They're lovely, but we're disagreeing about what would happen if they were to move in with me. They don't want to live with my housemates and feel it's too studenty to house share. But they don't think they should have to pay anything other than 50% of the bills, because I don't have to worry about a mortgage. They're super idealistic, and tend to get focused on how things should be rather than deal with the practicalities of how things are. For me, the reality is that when I have another flare-up, I'll have no money. I won't have any work, no rent, and they earn enough that I won't qualify for benefits either. They're sort of sympathetic, but mainly focused on how unfair the system is, rather than getting on board with making the best of it. I do see where they're coming from. I wouldn't choose to live with strangers if I didn't have to. The system is utterly flawed and needs changing. It doesn't seem right to charge rent to a partner, and creates a weird power dynamic. People should be more open to flexible working and hiring people with disabilities. I agree on all these points. But I need to eat, and can't live on principles. The way I see it, they can move in, split my bills and play nice with my housemates. Have the place be for just us, and pay me rent for one of the rooms. Or not move in at all and keep everything separate. Edit. I just wanted to thank everyone for helping me to sanity check my expectations. While I was on here, the other half was doing their own sanity checking, and has a better idea about where I'm coming from. I framed it as asking me to not have housemates as asking me to quit a job. That got through even further, and I got an apology for them not thinking about the realities of my situation. Neither of us really thought of it as a job, more an inconvenience. But it does make sense to think of it that way. We're both in agreement that there's no rush to decide anything, and hopeful that we'll find a way to make both of us happy. We're going to go out for lunch and run some proper numbers for different scenarios. List pros and cons of different ideas from both of our perspectives. It's the first time I'll have gone on a date with a notepad and pens. Should be romantic heart. Not the asshole, because it sounds like they don't understand you actually need roommates. They are your source of income. But maybe there is another way to do it. As in, once you are certain the relationship is serious enough, you can move in with your partner and rent the whole house? Not the asshole, they expect to sponge off you. Suggest that you rent out your entire home for income and the two of you can split all the bills on a little apartment. See how they respond to that, because that will be an equal split and a private apartment. If they don't like this plan, you've got clear proof they just want to use you. Not the asshole. Part of your livelihood involves obtaining rent from roommates, and you should not jeopardize that. Your partner should realize that and be willing to pay rent. All three of your options you gave make sense. I'd keep things separate for now and see if the reality of things will eventually sink in for your partner. Not the asshole, they are choosing to ignore the real-life situation you are in. I wouldn't be letting them move to tell you the truth. What happens if you split up and they want half the house? Do not move them in without a very strong pre-move-in agreement created by a lawyer. If they have a problem with you protecting yourself, then tough luck. You really need to listen to the warnings here, especially the ones by you metal devils. 10 months and they're trying to get you to agree to their way. What if you do what they want and then it doesn't work out? Where does that leave you? Not the asshole. I would probably not have them move in at all. It would feel weird charging my partner rent, and like you said, you need that source of income. They'll just have to deal with that. Not the asshole suggestion. Where does your partner live? Can you stay with them and rent out the third room in your house? That way you live together with no strangers, but you don't lose the income you rely on. Not the asshole, you would lose needed income. Your partner is trying to take advantage of you. I sure hope you don't allow that. Your partner either needs to deal with living with housemates, or pay the difference if renters move out, or don't move in. Am I the asshole for demanding why my mom installed a mobile tracker on my phone? Hello. 19F. I'm a college student living with my mother, 49F, and brother, 18. We've been living together again for about a month now and all of us have work. My mother and I have jobs at the same place. Before the new semester started, my mother wanted my brother and I to install a location tracker. I didn't mind much as I know that my mom was kind of known for being a control freak, so I did. There was no issue over the location thing and she never brought it up as a way to shame us. She even wanted our sister to install it, but my brother and I told her not to. My mother and I do not see eye to eye most of the time on some issues and she has a tendency to raise her voice. Over the summer, I was called out for being very uneasy around my family members and preferred my friends over them. I don't know why, I've always been that way. So I vowed that I would change my ways and start to value my family more. I thought I was doing well amidst some hiccups, and I really thought that my mom was beginning to see that I was changing. Now here's the issue. Yesterday, we had to install a new location tracking app because the other one wasn't working as it had a subscription plan. During the installation, my mom asked if she could check on something on my phone, and so, with all reason to trust her, I gave it to her. I got it back, and when I was scrolling to find a game to play on my phone, I saw a Wi-Fi app. Thinking that it was part of some new Samsung thing, and when I opened it, it displayed my Wi-Fi settings, and ignored it. But today, as I was trying to retrieve something from my internet history, I found a site called Mobile Tracker, and my heart sank. This application is the same one she uses to spy on my father through listening to his calls, reading his messages, and even listening to his conversations in real time. I was pissed. When I confirmed that the Wi-Fi app was the Mobile Tracker, I went up to my mom's room and demanded why she installed it on my phone. She tried to play dumb, but when I told her how I found it, she got angry at me and asked, "Can't I not care about you guys?" I told her that I did not mind sharing my location with her, but that this is a breach on my complete privacy and that I never thought that she would go this far, especially since I was the only one with the app on her phone. I made her uninstall it, but it wouldn't go away, I managed to read through a guide and uninstall it. I asked why she did this and she shouted at me, saying that if I didn't want her to care, then it was fine and to leave her alone as she was eating a meal. I walked back to my room, angry and dejected. I'm probably not in the wrong for confronting her, but was I overreacting in the way I did it? And #X200B. Edit. Yesterday, I mentioned to my mum that I was asked out on a date by a coworker and I accepted. This'll be my first ever date, and so perhaps my mum wanted to spy on us that way. Edit 2. My sister is 10 years my senior and married. She does not live with us. Not the asshole. Your mom is a control freak and you need to make sure your spine is made of metal, 'cause she will try to ruin your life if she thinks it's not going to her expectations. I've dealt with people like your mom. She is doing what's called gaslighting. She did something wrong, especially when she didn't need to, since you are an adult. Afterwards, when she was caught, she started trying to guilt trip you into making you look like the bad guy. This is a common trait among narcissists and sociopaths, from which your mom kinda seems to be like. Don't fall for this trap op, because she's trying to take control of the situation. You are not overreacting at all. Oh, my. You definitely are not the Mumsy is. I'm surprised the room didn't start on fire when she gaslit you with, "Can't I not care about you guys? What a load of crap. You have every right to be pissed. Hell, I'm pissed just reading about it. Not the asshole. You're an adult and your mother 1. Lied to you. 2. Invaded your privacy, and 3. Tried to gaslight you with the idea that what she did is just caring about you. If she cared about you, she would be honest with you and communicate like an adult. That's what people who care about each other do. Not the asshole. That is a major invasion of privacy, especially since you are an adult and your own person. Not the asshole. Your mom should consider therapy ASAP. How can your dad put up with such a psycho-control behavior? Not the asshole. That's totally inappropriate, and your mother has some serious control issues. You need to exclude her from your life choices, because she's going to get way worse than this if you don't put your foot down. Not the asshole. Is your phone passworded? You don't want her to get sneaky and put it on again.